What's up guys, my name is Timbo, and today we're doing something a little bit scary. Sharing your opinion on YouTube. Sharing my opinion is definitely nothing new for me on this channel. At one point opinionated videos were all that I made, but I haven't made one in a while. I think the last one was the Anthem video. A few of you have been pointing it out in the comments, but I was finally able to get the Recluse recently, meaning that I had to grind a buttload of PvP. And it really opened my eyes to the state of a game mode that I had largely been ignoring for a long period of time. Before I even finished the quest for the Recluse, I knew that this was something I wanted to revisit and talk about. Lord save me from this inevitable toxic cesspool that's about to be unleashed upon me. Ironically enough, I've noticed other people in the community start to open up about their thoughts on the Crucible, which is an interesting coincidence. I'm assuming others' videos were inspired by the Iron Banner, and while I did play some of that this past week, most of my experience recently is coming from the competitive playlist. To start this video off, I'm going to express my personal opinion on the Crucible with specifics, and then I'll get into what I want the bigger point of this video to be. Also, yes, I'm well aware we surpassed 100,000 subscribers, and while I am super excited and grateful, I would rather address that in its own separate dedicated video in the future. In the meantime though, just thank you guys times a million for your support. You guys have had such a positive impact on my life, and I am beyond appreciative of each and every single one of you, whether you've been here since the beginning or you just got here yesterday. As I said, most of my Crucible experience lately has come from competitive. I don't know how many hours I played to get the Recluse, but it was a lot. I practically started from having no rank at all, and I spent most of the journey playing solo. I had a few friends play with me for some of it, but most of the time our team was no bigger than 2. Throughout that entire experience, I never played with a full team before. I have some frustrations with the solo queuing, but I don't really know how much of that is the game's fault. It could very well be just downsides of pairing up with randoms. I will admit though, playing in a 4v3 or a 4v2 happened way more than I would like to see. It did play to my benefit sometimes, as my opponent would be winning and then one of their teammates would fail to load into the following rounds. But there was also several instances where my team definitely lost because the server just decided to load in only half of my team. And in a playlist where your rank gets docked for losing, that's a big problem. But looking at the PvP experience as a whole, what are some of the main things holding it back? If you've seen other people talk about this, then you're probably going to find some commonality, but things like supers and power ammo are definitely at the top of the list. I don't want to hate on them too much because, as I said, there is a larger point this video will be trying to make eventually, but as of right now, I think it's safe to say that they're a little bit too strong. While supers and power ammo are strong, I think the main place of frustration comes more from their duration. In the gameplay you're seeing on screen, normally I would just try to cut out embarrassing deaths or just deaths in general. I know it's a big surprise to all of you, I do die during Crucible matches. I am not immortal, but I'm not going to do that for this video. This footage isn't of anything special. I literally went online for a few matches just to record gameplay. So if anything, what you're seeing is a glimpse of what casually going into the Crucible looks like at any given time. There are several instances in here where you'll see me get killed by a super and then spawn right back in to either get killed immediately by another player with a super, or even that same player who still has their same supercharge going. This happens all the time, whether you're in quick play or competitive. If I get killed by a super, I don't think that player should have enough time to run all the way to the other side of the map and kill me a second time before their charge runs out. It's kinda ridiculous, especially in competitive when every life matters. There are so many roaming supers in Destiny 2, all of them travel like a million miles an hour, and all of them last an insane amount of time, whether you have exotics to help that out or not. Power weapons also get lots of ammo. In the clips where I'm using the last word, I got killed by the same guy using Wardrift Coil at least 5 times. In every one of those gunfights, I had 0 chance of survival. This is the problem that is caused by giving Truth 3 rockets and having supers last so long. You increase the number of encounters a player must face per game where they have no fair shot to win. It removes any sort of strategy and skill, as in most cases, the only option you have is to run for your life over and over again. In Destiny 1, if you were near heavy ammo, you got heavy ammo. While I think this kinda screwed up trials, in quick play it wasn't that big of a deal. I have a rocket, but my enemy also has a rocket. So for about a minute or two, the game turns to chaos, but once all the heavy is gone, things went back to normal. In Destiny 2, only one player picks up power ammo, so in theory that means less heavy on the field and less chaos. But since only one player has power ammo, it's almost impossible to stop them in a 1v1 or even a 2v2, or as you'll see with me somewhere in this gameplay, even a 3v1. There was a time in survival where I was last guardian standing and literally got 6 kills in a row to win the game, all because I spawned close to the power crate. There is no way of knowing who has the power ammo and when. It just kills you out of nowhere periodically throughout the match. Personally, I would rather take the 30 seconds of chaos where everyone has heavy and kills each other with it. At least you had a fair shot at killing the player with heavy, because you had your own heavy, and then maybe 1 or 2 players outlast the others and then get to go on a spree. As for supers, since they last such a long time, players will get a lot of kills with them, which will increase orbs, and combining that with certain exotics chains supers for days. And I'm not trying to say that I don't think people should get kills with their super. Supers should be powerful. But what I'm saying is that the number of times where you get into an enemy encounter and you have little to zero chance of survival has gone up so much. Rarely do I get killed with a primary weapon after the first few minutes of a game. Once power ammo spawns and players start getting their supers, that's all the game turns into. Super spam, heavy spam, run for your life, instant death. Oh, what's that? The guy with Lord Wolves is here too. Oh shoot, I forgot. It's more apparent in quick play, but its effects are more damaging in competitive, where winning and losing matters. So many of my games while in the competitive playlist were incredibly lopsided. After playing for a few hours, I could tell which team was going to win after the first minute or so. The game just isn't fair in a lot of ways, which is a shame because I feel like with the exception of a few outliers, most weapons are balanced and perfectly capable of getting kills. The problem is that fair 1v1 gunfights happen few and far between. But other than that, do I have a lot of problems? Not really. Some weapons are annoying and could use some tweaking, sure, but it's not a huge issue for me. I don't think Control and Clash really belong in the competitive playlist, but whatever. I'm not sure how dramatic this video will come off, but generally speaking, the Crucible has been way worse in the past. And I think the main fixes it needs are just a few changes here and there. Now that I've addressed supers and power ammo, I want to get into the bigger point to this video. There's no right or wrong answer to this question, I'm just curious to hear what you guys think. Is the Crucible a lost cause? Is it just doomed to always be imbalanced in some way? This is something I've brought up several times, granted not in a long time, but I've been asking this since Destiny 1. When Destiny 2 first came out, I made a video and this was the question I ended up asking. And here we are several years later, and I think the question is still worth asking. I can come on here and complain about supers and power ammo and shotguns and fusion rifles, just like how people back in the day complained about Thorn and firebolt grenades and final round freaking kill you with one body shot. But I admit, part of me doesn't want to, because while it's super frustrating to get killed 2 times by the same super in the Crucible and my first instinct is to say nerf it, for one thing, it's fun being the person to do that to someone else. But more importantly, supers are an integral part of PvE activities. If you water them down, are you even playing Destiny anymore? Outside of Well of Radiance, I don't think any of them are necessarily too powerful. We can get mad at it all we want, but Destiny is a practically impossible game to balance. Destiny wants to be this crazy fantasy game with awesome powers, but yet it also wants to be a competitive multiplayer shooter. It wants to have a skill gap and reward good players, but also wants to make sure the newbies get a 3-piece with their Blade Barrage every once in a while. It wants to play slow and balanced, but also grand and chaotic. And all the while they're constantly adding new variables into the mix in the forms of new exotics, weapons, gear, and abilities. The task at hand is not easy. PvE affects PvP, PvP affects PvE. Bungie tries to make the Crucible balanced, but then everyone tells them PvE is boring, the game is slow, and no one feels powerful. Bungie then ramps up the power to 11, but now we have a chaotic Crucible and they remove trials from the game indefinitely because of it. It feels like there's no winning. As I said, there's no right or wrong answer, but I feel like after all these years, this question is still valid. At a certain point, do you have to make a decision between having fun and having balance? Does balance come at a cost in a game like this? I'm curious to hear what you guys think. When I was grinding for Recluse, I remember telling Bubs, once I get it, I'm never touching competitive again, and I meant it. Sure, there are plenty of people out there who are Crucible minded first and PvE minded second, but even for those PvP players, I think it's safe to say that incentive is needed. The pinnacle weapons and some exotic quests keep the Crucible going, because there's something to chase. The weird thing about that is that I grind PvP to get the Recluse so that I can use it in PvE, but I digress. The Crucible was incredibly broken when Trials first came out in Destiny 1, but people played the crap out of it anyway because there was something worthwhile to chase. There was a reason to play the game mode and endure getting shot with Thorn every 2 seconds. I think moving forward, that's what the Crucible needs. Obviously, I'm not opposed to them trying to make the Crucible a fairer experience, but worthwhile rewards and incentive other than just pinnacle weapons aren't a bad idea in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just a YouTuber that complains and ruins the game for everyone. I don't really know where I'm going with this video anymore. I assumed it would essentially turn into a rant, which it has. And I think I've pretty much said all I need to say. This video was not made to urge people to not play the Crucible, nor was it to tell people they can't enjoy the Crucible in its current state. Plenty of you love using fusion rifles. I had plenty of good moments too. It's fun destroying half the team with your super, but the bad outweighs the good here. If you enjoyed the video, if you could please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.